Good evening and welcome to tonight's school board meeting of Burnsville, Egan, Savage, District 191. It's October 11th and it's 6:30 p.m. I will call this meeting to order. First up, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Miller.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. First will be the approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Director Curtis, second by Director Van Woom. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. We will move right into the information part of our meeting. First up, we will receive a report on Schmidt & Sons, our new transportation provider. Presenting will be Glenn Simon, and I suspect he will introduce his guests.
Good evening. Tonight I'm accompanied by John O'Laughlin and Bill Forboard with Schmidt & Sons to give just an update on transportation this year. So I'm going to jump right in, and they can introduce themselves when we let them start talking here. So Schmidt & Sons has been with the school district for the past 2 school years. Just as a reminder, they helped out our former transportation provider with up to 14 routes at given times. This year, Schmidt & Sons was awarded the contract to do our primary transportation route, bus driving, through an RFQ process. And they currently have 103 buses on the road every day, and they're transporting to and from school over 7,000 of our students. And I'll let John take it over from here, talk about the new buses that they have.
Thank you. My name is John O'Laughlin. I'm the project manager for the contract for your district. First and foremost, thank you for having us tonight. I really appreciate it. We've been working hard to provide great service, and I have to pat everybody on the back. The district's been great. The teachers have been great. Administration, students, parents, and it's gone very well. And from my standpoint, I'm extremely pleased with how things have been going. As you know, we have purchased new buses for the district this year. They're very nice, actually. They're beautiful. I think some of the council members, some of the district members have gotten to ride on them and seen all the features in which they do have. I think probably one of the most exciting aspects of it is on the side of the bus it has Burnsville, Egan, or Burnsville Savage and Egan schools on it, which I know is very exciting to a lot of people. We're very happy to do that, and that's been received very well. So, all of our new buses have a number of safety features in them. They all have 2A radios, so we're able to communicate with dispatch. They all have PA systems on them, which means the driver does not have to turn around and talk to students. They can get on a PA system, communicate with the students. It's a lot more effective. They can also communicate with students outside of the bus. For example, if a student is in the street, they can pull up short and say, back away to the corner. It's a great safety feature. Our drivers love them. It's worked out really well. We have camera systems in all the buses. GPS systems in all the buses, so we can watch where the buses are at all times, and we can review where the buses have been, speeds, stop time, pickup times, that sort of thing. The seats are equipped with high back safety seats, front and rear stop arms, which is very nice. We have stop arms not only in the front of the bus, but in the rear of the bus. LED strobe or LED lamps throughout the bus, so the visibility is really good. Strobe lamps on the top of the bus for inclement weather, which, as you know, has been this first month quite the challenge. So those are some of the safety features on our large buses. The drivers love them, and I think they've served us well so far. We also have our small buses, our special education buses. One of the big features in them is that we do have integrated star seats in the buses, so that means we can pull down the seat and we can buckle a student in. It's basically a built-in car seat. It's much more effective and much more safe than trying to install individual car seats. These are much safer, much better, and we don't have to worry about whether they're properly installed or not by the driver. The drivers, again, it's a huge thing for them. They absolutely love them. Again, LED lighting, camera systems, GPS, the safety seats that we have, the strobe lamps as well. And we currently operate about 10 lift buses for you for the wheelchair students at the moment. In reviewing the first month, I'd have to say that I've been very pleased. I'm hoping you are as well. Our drivers have done a great job. We're working hard to train. We're working hard to keep training up. We've already completed our bus evacuation drills in each of the schools. We've had our first safety meeting last month, and we have one again next month. So we're maintaining monthly safety meetings to review procedures, make sure that everybody understands. Overall, I would say we've not missed any routes or dropped any routes. I'm very proud of that fact. Our on-time service has been, I think, extremely good, and we're working hard to maintain that and keep that up. I've also brought Bill Forborg. He's our Chief Operating Officer with us tonight, and he would like to say a few things as well.
You're kind of a tough act to follow, John.
I'm-
No, thank you for having us in your community. I grew up here, not far from here, graduated from Burnsville. I won't say when, I don't want to date myself, but it's really great for me. I'm spending about half my time up here. I've been driving bus, I've been out on the street, and just the welcome has been awesome. Kids are great, parents, it's just really great to talk to them, let them know that we're here, and we really do want to make a difference and get to know them and make sure that their concerns and questions are all answered. A couple things about our company, probably different than some. We're open, if you call our phone, we'll answer all the time. And we start at about 6 in the morning, and we're there till at least 8 at night, and then that phone will roll over to our other division that's 22 hours a day. So people find that really, really helpful. So whether it's a lost computer, eyeglasses, a backpack, you get a live person on the phone, and they usually get an answer, and we're always willing to bring that stuff back out to the families that, my child left her homework on the bus. We'll usually spin the bus around and take it back and deliver it. So we're not done. We're going to continue to work with each principal, work with the staff here, and make sure the service meets our standard. This is a huge undertaking for our company to get all the things done to buy a building, get all the buses, hire all the drivers, and we have a schedule. We're on schedule. We're proud of that, and I just want to thank you. And if you ever have a concern or question, reach out to us. We'll be glad to meet with you and talk to you and walk you through that. So.
Well, thank you. We'll take board member questions and comments, but Superintendent Emerald. So.
I'm just going to ask you to add a couple more comments. You're a new company for us in the Burnsville Egan Savage schools, but you've done a lot to create the team and the local location for all of the buses. Could you just say a couple of words about that team you've put together for the Burnsville contract? Your safety, your trainer, what kind of the team that you put together, and then just comment on your location for us?
Sure. We're in the old Menards location down on 3500 West Highway 13. That is the same location that the previous service provider. We did something different. We bought the building. We've been working hard on remodeling it. We plan on staying in the community and being in the community. We put together our team. My background is I've worked for District 196 in the Transportation Department previously, and then I came to work for Schmidt & Sons as a special education transportation manager in Lakeville, and was promoted to this position when this position opened up. My background is 911 dispatch. I spent 25 years as a 911 dispatcher for the city of Lakeville and Dakota County, previous to my experience in the Transportation Department. We've hired some of the employees from the past company. Our operations manager, Ryan Headley, is very strong. He's a very strong operations individual. We are happy to have him on board. He's doing a great job. I know he spent 5 or 6 years with the previous before we brought him on board. We've kept a number of the same dispatchers that have a lot of familiarity with Burnsville, the busing, the schools, the students, so that was kind of nice. We brought on a safety manager. Mike Shady is our new safety manager. He comes to us after 30 years as a police officer, sergeant, within the city of Lakeville, and he also served 27 years as a transit police officer in Minneapolis. So that was a great find because he really understands busing, and he's got a strong law enforcement background, but also a strong background in dealing with people. He's very strong and has done a great job for us. Really works well with people. Am I missing anyone?
Your trainer.
Oh, our trainer, Josh. Josh Corbett comes to us. We hired him. He's done training in the past and bus driving in the past for District 196. He saw a good opportunity with us. We brought him on board. We've kept the trainers that were with the previous employer as well. Right now we have a training staff of 4, which is a very strong training staff. We've been working really hard, bringing people in, getting them trained, getting their CDLs. So we have the strongest training staff I've ever been associated with in the busing industry right now. So we're really excited about that. So right now we've got a great team. And the nice thing about Schmitty's is that I have so many people to draw on. We have a recruitment team that is working hard on recruiting, not only for us, but the entire company. But since we've taken over the contract, they've been, I don't know, you can barely go a block without seeing a Schmitty & Sons hiring around. I think they're pretty much everywhere, billboards and buses and road signs, et cetera. And they've done a great job for us. I mean, putting together a team of bus drivers, basically, 4 months ago, we had none. And now we're in great position, great staffing, and we have more coming through the pike. So we're here for the long haul, and we're committed to it. So it's been a great team effort from everyone. So I'm very happy with our staff.
Thank you. Any board member comments or questions? Director Van
I
Den
would
Boom.
love to. First of all, this is like the 3rd bus company since I've been on the board. And I may be a bad data point because my kids aren't in school, so I'm not putting them on the bus every single day, but I can tell you, no news at the beginning of the school year is good news for board members because it means that things are going very smoothly. And I have not heard a peep this year at all. I also want to talk about putting Burnsville Egan Savage schools on the side of your school bus because one of the most visible, I think our staff, our students, our parents are very proud of being part of this district. And for me, it was really missing with the last 2 bus companies to see whether it's First Student, whether it's to see Durham, to see the names of our schools on those buses is a very visible indicator of the pride that we have in our schools and in our district. And what I love sort of about your company, because we did the parade and we got a lot of great information. You're very proud of your company. I think the alignment in terms of your pride in what you do and our pride in what we do is a really nice fit. And I just want to thank you for really providing just a great outward sign of solidarity, if you will, around our district. And I think you guys have done a great job as far as I know. And I've not heard a peep from Glenn, which is a good thing too, right? So we know things are going well. So thank you again for what you do and the impressive training and some of the other things that go on there. That really makes us feel good with regard to the safety for our students and what's going on with our students, because we all know those bus rides can be kind of interesting on some days, and you guys do a great job.
And
with
our
it.
drivers take a lot of pride with that, with the name on the side of the bus as well. It's not just the parents, it's not just the district, it's not just the administration, it's also our bus drivers. They take a lot of pride. They love how the signage is on the buses now. They think they take ownership in it as well. It really makes a difference, even for them.
I mean, a number of things. I mean, the PA system on the inside and the outside of the bus, the fact that, if you don't have one, you're looking back as a driver. I mean, a lot of those, they're little things, but they make a big difference in terms of safety. So a lot of the things that we hear, but having cameras on the bus, another great thing to make sure, if something happens and we hear, it's not hearsay anymore. It's we know what happened, and that helps us really kind of manage and make sure everybody has a good start to their and end to their school day. So thank you very much for a great start from my perspective.
Thank you, Bob. Director Alt.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt. As a parent who doesn't live in busing distance, my kids have to, one of my children has to walk to school, so I'm often out driving at the same time that the buses are getting our kids to school. And knowing that they're on a tight schedule, I am so impressed with how courteous they are, how safe they are, very clearly paying attention to other people on the road, paying attention to the students, and just making things flow seamlessly for them, for the kids, and for the other drivers on the road. So I just wanted to let you know I appreciate that, the consistency.
That's great to hear, and that's not by accident. We work hard at it. And our drivers take an incredible amount of pride in what they do. It amazes me at how much pride they actually take and how much ownership they take, and that's a great compliment to hear. Thank you very much.
Director Miller.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of the same things. I really do appreciate what you guys have done so far. The principal among them is the fact that we have not heard a peep, not a thing from Glenn, and more importantly, not a thing from Jim about the buses. But I think for me, the most significant piece is how wholeheartedly you guys have jumped into this. And you have taken, from all the staff you just talked about, to the buses, to buying property in the community. You have taken this on as you're not just a vendor, you're a partner with the district, and we really do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Director Courier.
I have a question and then a couple comments. We're almost at full employment out there. Has it been difficult to find drivers? Or how's it going for you?
We're doing really well. We're still hiring. We have not missed any routes. We're in the 90s as far as where we want to be, 95, 96% of the way there. We have a lot of people coming through training. We have a good recruitment team in place. We continue to hire. I feel really good. I think one of my biggest concerns or fears when we took over the contract and when I was awarded the individual to run the contract is that, it's not easy to find drivers. We are fussy. I'm going to tell you that. That goes back to your safety piece. There have been a number of employees or a number of people that have applied for us that don't meet our standards. They meet standards of bus driving. They meet standards of CDL. But they don't meet our standards. We're a little fussier, I think, than a lot of bus companies out there. So we've refused a lot of people. The easy way out, we could have hired them and we'd have probably 100% right now. We won't do that. So we'll wait until we get people that we trust and like and meet what we would define as our standards. I'm very comfortable with where we are right now. It even amazes me, to be honest with you, that we pulled it together. But it's kudos to our team. We worked hard, and it's kudos to our training team, our recruiting team, and we're not going to let up on that. So we won't be happy until we're exactly where we want to be and then some. So it's been a big piece of the puzzle, and I couldn't be more pleased, to be honest with you.
Thank you. I'm a retired school administrator, and we have a few of them in the audience. And so, first of all, a big thank you, and I echo the sentiments of my fellow board members, and I add about 55 exclamation points to that. And you're saving these administrators that are in the audience tons of time, because it takes one bus incident, and you end up investigating that and spending time and working with families and students to solve that problem and working with the bus company and all of that, if you're the administrator charged with figuring out that problem. So I haven't heard a peep either, and I did from fellow colleagues back. So thank you for your conscientious effort in training and finding the right drivers, and because you're saving these administrators time and effort in their jobs, and they're devoting then that time to instruction, which is more their core job. So
And it's saving us time as well, because
Yes.
we're not dealing with
Thank
it as well.
you.
So.
Thank you. Director Luth.
I guess I better speak up because I'm not making anybody think like I'm not a happy person. I was kind of trying to turn the favor that no news was good news. No, I mean, I echo Director Vandenboom. I've been around for a long time up here, and I've never, ever had a fall where there's been not a peep about transportation. I mean, absolutely nothing, particularly in the year of a new firm coming on board. I mean, that's always been a tumultuous first few weeks for us. It has been nothing. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it's like everything's going okay, right? I mean, I came to you, didn't I, about 10 days into this. I says, I haven't heard anything. is that good or bad? I've never been in this situation before. So yeah, kudos to you. And just as an anecdote, I've known Josh Corbett for over 10 years. And he and my wife and I were over at Costco. We bumped into he and his wife here in the summertime soon after you had brought him on board. And he made me aware of what his new role. And I said, and I couldn't be prouder. And it told me a lot about you folks, because I was like, he's top caliber kind of individual. And I have no doubt that the training has gone really well under his supervision or whatever. But and you guys have a long history here just south of us. If you ever want to, I mean, their history is very interesting, by the way. I mean, it goes way back, 30s, I believe. If I remember right.
Well, about 65 years we've
Yeah, I
been
mean,
in
it's-
business, and it's a Schmidt family, and
Some mergers and some things like that. But if you go
Sure.
back, I mean, it.
And, you know, we believe in service, and we do a lot of things on purpose. You know, if you answer the phone, if someone has a problem, we try to look at it as opportunity to get better. People, when they call with a problem, if you handle it correctly, can be your best customer. And we're already seeing that with parents, that they're connected with us, they like what we're doing, they're comfortable with our drivers, and so if there is an issue on the bus, and there are, you already have the parents leaning your way because they know you're trying to do the right thing. And so, I mean, I look at those as opportunities for our staff to connect with the school administration, the parents, and we return our phone calls, we handle problems, we do our very best every day, and we're not perfect, but we work hard at it, and like John said, it's not just the team down on Highway 13. You have the support of about 700 other employees that live right here, and I get it often from other divisions saying, geez, I saw the buses in Burnsville doing this, I saw them doing that. So there's a lot of eyes and ears out there that make all this work, and we listen, and because we want to provide the best service we can. And
Well, you're off to a great start.
well, thank you.
Let's keep doing what we're doing.
Well, thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't close it out with a few comments. As Director Miller alluded to, and Glenn and Lisa Ryder will attest to, I do pride myself on being a junior transportation inspector. And I'll give you a few examples. I will have a few questions. I did follow one of your smaller, I tend to alter my route to follow the buses. And I followed one on Monday, one of the smaller buses, and those strobe lights really strobe, is what I can tell you. It is almost blinding, but you won't miss the bus. But I was walking the dog last week, and as the bus is going by, I'm giving it the stare down, because I capture the information in case I have a question for Glenn. And the bus driver just waves at me. He's like, all right. So very friendly. So I want to compliment. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they probably do have a picture. But then with the cameras, I do have a few questions. One's more for the board and one's for you guys. So I was on County Road 11 the other day. It's a 4-lane road, and the lights were flashing, and all the cars behind it, of course, were stopped. But the cars on the other side, and I almost got rear-ended because I was on the other side, weren't stopping, and it's not a divided highway, so I think they were actually breaking the law by not stopping. And so I'm wondering if the cameras or the bus drivers report those type of incidents, when they're actually not stopping for an extended arm, the arm was extended, was flashing, kind of thing, or how that's handled.
Yeah, the bus driver will report those. We do have a few of those. The bus driver will report them. He'll get us as much information as possible. He generally will call on the radio and just let us know I had a stop arm, and he'll a lot of times read off the license plate just so he can write it down. Because if he tries to remember it or find something to write on, that creates a hazardous situation as well. He will report those to us. We do have forms we fill out, and we'll submit them to the local police jurisdiction. Sometimes camera catches it, sometimes they don't. They generally don't get a plate. But sometimes they may get a look or description of the driver, which is helpful. So we collect as much information as we can, and we do submit those. Sometimes they do help us in having that individual charged. So it's up to the local law enforcement in terms of how they take it and what information they have. And but yes, we do report those all the time when they do occur. We don't get a lot of them though, a lot less than you might think. So. Our drivers are all over that, though. They take that very seriously. And if they see a car coming, they'll stop the kids before they actually get
Good,
out of the bus
yeah.
and say, no, and then the car will go right through the stop arm, so.
And then on the complimentary side, we recently had a emergency at one of our schools where we had to evacuate the school, and you guys, in a matter of minutes, had, I think, 12 to 13 buses there for our students as part of the evacuation plan. And so, obviously unplanned and very responsive, and I mean, that's just so encouraging to understand that that's how, we'll get that kind of service going. And so that's very encouraging. My last question on the cameras, again, this is more kind of towards the school board. I don't recall if we actually have a policy, right, for the the footage uses. How does it get requested? Let's say a parent, contacts us and I want to see my little Johnny said little Amy picked on him, and
That would fall under the same practices or protocols that we use for any of our other security cameras in the district. Like in our buildings, we have those kinds of requests frequently when there are incidents, and so it would follow that same protocol.
Wonderful.
And it all falls under data privacy.
Good. Thank you.
Is it identified in the policy that bus cameras are part of that or not? We might want to at least look at the policy just to see if it identifies,
check.
just to make sure that it's inclusive. I understand that it does, that we follow it that way, but it might be nice to include, because buses never had cameras before,
Right.
so I'm guessing they're not
We'll
called
make
out
sure
there.
that the language is universal and would cover
Yeah.
contractors or any vendors that we would be using with cameras.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I know that type of footage becomes important. I had a incident, where there was a camera in a parking lot and they wouldn't give over the footage unless you had a police report kind of thing. And so, we have to have a policy around that. Well, thank you so much. You're off to a great start. We appreciate everything you're doing for our district. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, next in our information session, we're going to hear on our culturally proficient school system, better known as CPSS, and get a report. Presenting will be Dr. Jenna Mitchler, our Director of Curriculum, and joining her will be Shannon McParland, our principal at Metcalf Middle School, Lori Canine, our reading specialist, and Jean Kibler, a speech teacher.
All right. Good evening, Chair Schmid, Board of Directors, and Superintendent Amoroso. I'm here tonight with the folks that you've just introduced. So in order so that you know who they all are, Shannon McParland, principal at Metcalf, next to me. Jean Kibler, who's a speech pathologist. Lori Canine, who's a reading specialist. And we're going to share with you some of the information that we have about the past and CPSS in our district and how we're planning to move forward.
Okay, so the purpose of our presentation tonight is to provide a timeline and an overview of our planning and implementation over the course of time. We're going to look at the 3 different stages of our implementation, and we are currently in stage 3, so we will provide you some information about that.
So if we look at the timeline, CPSS began the school year of 2014-2015, and that began in August with a 4-day training with Dolores and Ramsey Lindsay with a book study using the book Tools of Cultural Proficiency. And then in the summer of 2015, Dolores and Randy Lindsay worked with leaders including principals, assistant principals, coordinators, program supervisors, directors, superintendent leadership team, and continuous improvement coaches. Then in the school year of 2015-16, our Culturally Proficient School System Teacher Leaders Academy began, with 4 teachers at each site who met monthly and received professional development. Also during that school year, there was an administrative leadership. We're continuing with their training and learning around Culturally Proficient. Leaders explored how strategies for leading this work and became familiar with the tools that we now use. In the summer of 2016, we institutionalized our Culturally Proficient school systems. Leaders engaged in training with Dolores and Randy Lindsay on preparing school-wide implementation. In the school year of 2016-27, Culturally Proficient school systems were embedded into the school improvement plans, site-based PD that is done at each and every site. In the summer of 2017, district leaders engaged in Culturally Proficient Institute to explore how to make our efforts sustainable. Throughout the school year of 2017-28, the CPSS district team created an action plan with very specific actions to be taken to ensure the sustainability of CPSS. During the school year of this year, 2018-19, the CPS district team will be working with stakeholders to implement this action plan and embed our culturally proficient schools into our organizational system.
And I'm just going to add right now, before we move on to the next slide, that Jean, who's going to tell us next a little bit about this stage 3, so these 4 years that we're starting now this school year, won't be mentioning anything to you right now about our work with engaging students in the process. So we're focusing this presentation on engaging staff and adults really within our system. But we do have some plans, and I will say that I'll be meeting with Dolores and Randall Lindsay in just a couple of weeks, and so I'll be able to kind of find out what their thoughts are on engaging students, and we'll be able to come up with a systematic way to do that work.
So within the last 3 years, so during the last 3 years, we've done, she used to be my principal.
She misses me.
I do. So in the stage 1, the desired results of that first year was just to determine what the guiding principles of cultural proficiency are and determine what essential questions we wanted to know the answers to so that we could develop our knowledge and our skills for making CPSS sustainable long-term. So in stage 2, we really looked hard at finding out what were the key indicators of progress toward being a culturally proficient school system. So looking at both the direct and indirect evidence of CPSS in our overall system. And a couple of examples that we have is using CPSS is embedded in our SIPs within each of our schools, and we're doing CPSS professional development all year long. And in stage 3, we were looking at the steps that we needed to take to ensure that CPSS is embedded in our system and how that would work. So this summer, we met as teacher leaders, not just teacher leaders, but leaders within just looking at CPSS and what were the action steps that we wanted to focus on. So during the summer, we determined the action steps that we would take to prioritize, and then to prioritize those action steps into projects. We met and determined a way to group each of our teams into different programs and different projects that we would determine a leader and then team that project so that we could plan on that development. And then to articulate those goals and the timeline and to engage our stakeholders, and then to make sure we have outcomes and then execute it and measure our progress and have a way to do that consistently.
Okay, so after determining all the action steps and what we needed to do next, I will go over that for this next year. We're going to be working on these things. Develop and implement targeted training for different district-wide departments and leadership teams. We'll continue to develop and implement explicit and embedded professional development for all building-based staff and continue on that progression with what we've already started. And really, we'll plan to embed CPSS into our current work and really look across everything we do and implement it and really take that into consideration. And the final thing is to ensure that CPSS is the essential elements are visible in all of our buildings so the staff is reminded on a daily basis of what we're about and what's significant. And that is all we have. Thank you for
Well,
listening.
thank you for that presentation. Any board member comments or questions? Director Miller.
Actually, I thank you for coming tonight, first of all. Just curious if you could expand on actually your very last point about the visibility, because I do think that's something we're aware that I think everybody that participates in the district, from administration to teachers and such are very aware of what we're doing, but I'm not 100% sure that the public is aware of this program and the benefits and how it's going to, connect. So I'm wondering if you could expand on how the visibility will occur.
Well, I can expand a little bit about that. I'm at Suttrell Elementary, and it's an amazing place to work, first of all. But there are huge posters on throughout the whole school. There are just posters, and they've made sure that there's representation for every culture in our community, and it's been that's pretty powerful to see that. And in the front office, there is a long line of flags just indicating where every single one of our students is from. And as a new student comes into our district and their flag is not designated, is this correct? It is added so that our students see that they matter.
And so we want to make sure that's in all of our buildings. They're a step ahead of us, the other elementary buildings.
Yeah, and then I would add to Director Miller that we are working on being more visible in the community as well with the CPSS work. So one of the first steps that we've taken to that end was with our Student Achievement and Systems Improvement Parent Advisory Committee, the SASIAC Committee, which is our World's Best Workforce Committee. We had our first meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we brought similar slides, and one of the members of our district advisory team, who's not with us right now because we are all members of that team, came and presented that information. And the questions we asked that group were, how can we communicate this with the community, and how might the community want to be involved? And they provided some really great feedback. So we're looking forward to digesting all of that information and really moving forward on that this year, especially as a team as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm just want to ensure that people are aware that there is a very extensive, unified process. The examples you gave are fantastic, and I want to see more of that. But I think people need to understand that there's thought, not that putting flags up is not thought, but there's a district-wide process and thinking that's going in behind all this. So I encourage you and applaud what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member?
Yeah.
Dr. Vanden?
This has been an interesting project or program for me, and there's some personal challenges I have with it. So first of all, I'm completely on board. I've seen the training, and we've invested a tremendous amount of money in the professional development around CPSS, and so I've been the question really that I struggle with is it the best use of our professional development dollars, only in the sense of I'm looking for improvements in student outcomes. And so I'm watching, okay, year 1, year 2, year 3, and it takes time. It's a culture. And so it's not something that just happens overnight. But, when you're an impatient school board member like I am, you look at it and you say, okay, so how many years really do I need to continue to invest in this before I say it is or isn't working? And it's not that it's not working. It's the question is it working as good as a different investment might work for us to improve those student outcomes? So I'm not quite sure how to ask the question, but one question is, how many years really do we have to continue to invest in this for us to actually see the return on the investment, if you will? And then part 2 is, from your perspective, is that the best investment of a lot of professional development dollars or not?
So I can answer that on a couple of levels. I think this is critical. I think this is our foundation. I think this is what we do every day, and unless we put it in front of ourselves and remind ourselves what are our values, beliefs, and assumptions that we make at every moment, at every day. I think of when Dolores Lindsay was sitting at Suttrell with the leadership team, and she said, I made an assumption this morning, and this is what I did. And they all went, wow, you're the expert, and we're learning from you. You live it day in and day out. I, as an administrator, loop culturally proficient school systems into everything I do. It is in every professional development. I try to link it into the conversations that I have with parents, with students, with staff, with my family, beyond my work, because it becomes embedded. So I think until we get to the place where we really can say, it feels like we all have those tools, I think it's worth it. Eventually, we're going to all have those tools. It takes time. It takes a lot of work. And when Lori said you've been at it a lot longer, we were lucky. We started with this journey the year before, as everybody else in the district was learning at Sioux Trail. But the impact that it made at Sioux Trail and what I'm seeing now at Metcalf, it is the day-to-day interactions that we have with kids to invest in their learning, to honor, I'll use Leslie Howard's quote, I no longer ask kids to come in and acclimate to me. I allow my kids to come in and be seen, and I learn from them. And that was a powerful statement she made one day.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, well, and thank you for that feedback, because, for me, and I have another question around, we have a lot of incoming teachers and staff that haven't been part of the 2-year journey that you're already part of, and, how do we bring them up to speed, so to speak? But I view it kind of, it's for the adults. I think kids, from my perspective, are already culturally proficient in many, many ways that adults are not. And so it's one of those things where I think it's the adults that are the challenge. And so for me, that might include parents. And so, but I think students just naturally are just more open and, just culturally proficient from the start, if you will. And I think a lot of students that are coming out of, for example, even staff that are coming out of colleges are probably more culturally proficient than coming out of college 30 years ago, that kind of thing. So, but I am interested in kind of understanding how we sustain it then. If we are going to consider it that embedded and so forth, how do we then bring new staff and so forth and maybe expand it out into parents as well as new staff, as I say, or replacement staff?
Yeah, and I think I would just add that in my one meeting, it was a long meeting, it was the majority of a day with our district advisory team, I was just I left so energized, really, and impressed by the comments those folks were making and the hard work everybody is really excited to put in to make CPSS continue to be a reality and for us all to continue on our journey. And the reason I say that is because they're all trained as CPSS trainers, and so we have great capacity within our district to continue the work. And I think you're right on in saying that we need to make sure as we're onboarding new folks that we're doing the same thing with them. And so we'll continue to make that a priority with our new staff training as well. But that's a really great point. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board? Director Alt?
Thank you, Chair Schmidt. I had you reminded me of a story that a parent shared with me, and I thought it was relevant, talking about the flags in the school. She herself grew up in a different country, and when they enrolled her son at the school, she saw the flag from her country, and it's not necessarily one that you would expect to see in a school. And the feeling of welcome that she shared with me, and just that she knew when she saw that flag that this was a good place for her son to be in. So that was just a great story, and I wanted to share that with you. And then one question, and I think I know the answer, but I have to ask it anyway. In terms of all staff getting this training, all means all. Food service, custodians. Okay, great. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Director Luth?
I really had a great question around the second point, plan to embed CPSS in current work, and Shannon, you just blew it out of the park before I had a chance to even say anything. And that was how you intend to do this. And you demonstrated to me exactly how we intend to do this, because you're living it and you're demonstrating it as an administrator, and you folks are demonstrating it to your peers, et cetera, how pervasive this really is. It's a life changer. It's not just something we're doing in our schools. It's life changing. The things that I've learned along the way, been profound, and I've been on the edges. You guys are deep into it, and so that's how it'll continue. You sustain a program by internalizing it, by making it just inherent, part of. It's not something that you go to have training for. It's something you're just doing all the time. That's how culturally sustainable. The cultural changes are sustained is by living it, not by teaching it, not by going to training classes. Not saying that the PD is not important. It's very, very important, and those are refreshers. And I share your interest, and I mentioned it last night at our meeting, that we've had a lot of programs now that, not only this one, but some other things that have been in place now for 2, 3, 4 years. But like any other educational institution, we have a certain amount of turnover that happens every year. And that's another part of sustaining it, is as new folks come in, how do you get them up to speed is probably the wrong term to use, but that's another part of sustaining it, is because I've seen many a program die on the vine just because the faces have changed. And they don't have that vigor, they weren't part of that initial excitement or whatever. But if you keep the excitement going and keep it being part of their day-to-day aspect of everything you do. So I've seen a couple different things along this lines over the years in this district. This one's got feet on the ground. It's been around for 3 or 4 years already. That says a lot, to be honest with you. But it is a long, long haul. Culture does not change overnight. And so, Shannon, just keep telling everybody to do what you do.
There's a lot of people, Dan. So
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I was having how I wanted to word that question, and all of a sudden you just like, oh, there's the answer, okay. So thank you. And that's great. That tells me a lot, just because it's not, I don't have to ask the question. It just naturally comes out. So thanks.
Mr. Vandenboom, just when I think about the journey that we've been on, when I first started this process, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I was not culturally proficient, because I just thought I was. I'm not a racist, I'm not this, I'm not that, but I'm constantly challenged to view my world differently because of what I've learned. So when you say, when is it going to be the ending point? When is it going to be? It's never going to be over, because it truly is such a process within us. And if we're willing to look at ourselves, we change what our students believe about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing to see a kid believe in something that they've never believed in before. And we change that for them. We have to stop challenging our students to be the ones to teach us differently, and we need to start being different so they can be raised to a different level. It's just, it's a powerful thing, but it's not something that just will stop. It just is something that has to continue for our kids' sake.
No, and thank you for the clarification. I mean, most of, my focus again is it impacting students?
Oh.
And so that's the view I look at, and because I've seen that it has had a significant impact on staff, and in a positive way, and so forth. So I'm just kind of wanting to see, and when I talk about time frame, I'm talking about that time frame is when would that translate into now the students are learning more and the academics are starting to move up as well. So, but that's still very, very helpful. So thank you for that clarification.
So when I think of Sioux Trail and the data, and the gap is closing, there's always growth that will always be there. But if you look, and I can only speak for the school I know, it made a huge impact, and it made a huge difference for our kids. Both, all kids, but really our non-white kids, and closing that gap.
And we noticed.
And so when you ask, I'm very passionate about it, as everybody's sitting up. That's why we decided to say, pick me, put me on that leadership team. I believe that culturally proficient schools makes Burnsville the amazing place it is, because it honors each and every member of our community, from birth to old age. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I know Director Ault had a follow-up.
Excuse me, I did. It kind of related to something, Director Luth, that you were talking about, that it's, internal, and that there's a lot of hard work being done. And I would turn to fellow board members and say, as a member of this system, and, decision makers in this system, we need to continue to challenge ourselves to connect with the work, the culturally proficient work that our leaders are doing, to make sure that we're connected. And as, hopefully the, diversity within our staff increases, perhaps even diversity on the board itself, we need to continue to engage as best we can, knowing that our time is limited, but continue that engagement. So, thank you.
Again, not surprising, I'll close it out with a few comments. I don't think I have a question. The two words I jotted down, and I heard them multiple times in different things, was sustained. So I am impressed, and Dan kind of alluded to this, that this program has been in place for 4 years. And over those 4 years, it's never come to the board to be cut. It's never come to the board as a decision to reduce or try. And because, I think there is value there in what we're seeing with the student achievement. And more importantly than that, especially in public education, I haven't been on as long as Dan or Dee Dee, but in 8 years, you don't see a lot of programs that sustain over multiple administrations, multiple curriculum directors, and continue forward. So that is very impressive and is telling that there is an impact there. The one question, and I'll phrase it in a different way, I'm wondering when we graduate from the Lindsays, though. Now, I say that because, that's where the costs come, but, I'm not overly concerned about that. But, so it's more rhetorical. It's not really something I want you to answer. But just so everyone knows, the board did get a training. We spent a day workshop, and we spent half that day with the Lindsays, and, the board getting trained, and that time was Dr. Stanley. But so the board has certainly not gone through in depth of you, but we have a very good, at least, understanding, of what you're going through, and appreciate, kind of the testimonials that you're giving as far as impact. So thank you for your time tonight, and appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next information session will be our second in the series. We will hear from Dr. Elizabeth Vaught on Edward Neal Elementary. And tonight we know what purposeful movement is. I do.
What?
No, good, you don't know.
No, I don't know. Board Chair, Directors, and Superintendent Amoroso, thank you for the opportunity to brag about Neal Elementary. I always appreciate that opportunity. We are one of our K-5 elementary schools. I featured our building leadership team here. It's a cross-section of different people from our building who bring multiple lenses to our leadership. A bit of an overview of our demographics of what our ethnicities look like. I gave you a couple of arrows on the right to show you some trends, some of the populations that have been trending up over the last 5 to 10 years, and our white population has been trending down over the last 5 to 10 years. This is our site improvement plan goal. This is our building-wide goal, and all of our collaborative teams work individually on their own targeted student groups and goals related to those that are in service to the building goal. So I might not work with 3 through 5 grade students, but I do work in service of this goal. So how does my work get students to where they need to be for this particular goal? So for this particular goal, we are using MCA or Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment data in reading. And I'm sorry, I'll go back. I'll show an example of the collaborative team, one of the collaborative team goals, so you can kind of see what those might look like. We are a MTSS school, like our other buildings, MTSS being multi-tiered systems of supports, where we look at what do all students get, what do some students get, what do a few students get, and it's all based on what they need. So if you think about the bottom of the triangle, what everyone has, I included some pictures from our Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, or PBIS system. At Neal, we are the STARS, which means we succeed together, act responsibly and safely. We say it every day right after the Pledge of Allegiance, so it's hard to say the Pledge of Allegiance and not follow it by, today we will be stars, and we will. So I think when we think about the triangle, we think a lot about academics. It is our social and emotional component as well. So you can see our Neil the mascot and our zones of regulation that our students are learning. There's a picture of a morning meeting going on. Those are all building-wide endeavors that we have. And then for some of our students, we might have small group remediation, small group enrichment supports for students that need it. So that's some category. And I also showed a picture of one of our relaxation stations for students who are working on their regulation in the zones. And also in terms of the top of that triangle, the few and what they might need, we talk a lot about a medical analogy and thinking about diagnosing what students need and finding the perfect prescription for them to treat that individual need. And that could be this individual student, we diagnose, oh, they need glasses. This student, they need some very specific phonics work. And then we work to try to provide what it is that they need. How do we figure that out? One of the ways that we do that is to dive into our data, and we like to look at data in a variety of different ways. So I've given you some academic examples. I apologize if it's a little bit overwhelming, but it is the world that we live in. So the top left example is 5th grade MCA data. We talk about proficiency and we talk about growth, and it's helpful to look at those together. Because we do have students who are very proficient but aren't growing. So how do we push them? How do we challenge them? Students who are not growing, why not? Students who are growing but not proficient. So we look at data in different ways so that we can really dig in and see what is going on with that student. And then another way we can look at data, the bottom right, we might compare across assessments. So we might look at the MCA assessments and the MAP assessments. We might look at the different groups of students that we have in the building and who's performing and who's underperforming and what's the gap that's there between where they are and where we want them to be and where they can be. So we notice a lot of different things when we bring the data together and look at it from a variety of angles. So it gives us that opportunity to really question who's successful in our system and who's not, and what do we need to change about our system to make sure everyone's successful. So I talked about the prescribing for individual students. We have a lot of medicine in our schools. We really do. We have a lot of really great tools. And one of those tools is time and how we use time. And we allow for that differentiation time. And like the other buildings, we have a block of time where we provide small group instruction for everyone. And we look at what is it that they need and how do we provide it. And how do we make sure they get what they need in this short day? And what if they need a lot of different things? And how do we prioritize? These are really tough questions that we have to ask ourselves and make some tough decisions about the priorities for our student needs. So these are some examples of the tools that we might use in service of our student needs. And how do we sort of define this and make sure that we are doing the right thing? We collaborate together as adults. And you might have heard of Plan, Do, Study, Act, the process where we come together in a cyclical way and plan and engage students and look at data. Are we doing the right thing? And we come back together, and we're always in that conversation of continuous improvement. And I've included an example of one of our targeted group goals the collaborative team has. So depending on what my role is in the building, who I work with, I might look at the data and we'll make a decision as a team. This is the group that we need to spend a little extra time focusing on. So if I'm a 3rd grade teacher, we're going to be, as a collaborative team, talking about all of our 3rd grade students. We want to not forget that we have a subset of students that are underperforming. So what are we doing differently for them? So for example, the 3rd grade team identified our students with IEPs are greatly underperforming their general ed peers. So they're looking at how do we service them differently? What do we need to do differently so that all of the students could be successful? And I included a picture of some student goals there as well, because goals aren't very helpful if the students aren't involved in them and invested in them. So we want to make sure that they're invested in their own growth as well. And that's a really important component of making sure that they get there and knowing that we have high expectations for them. So we're going to continue this work. It's sort of like cultural proficiency. It doesn't end. We keep working, we keep using data to drive our decision making. We have data days coming up that are right before conferences, which will be a wonderful opportunity to really have that data fresh in our minds when we go into conversations with parents and talk about where their student is performing and how we're going to bring them to the next level. Regardless of whether they're needing remediation or enrichment, we're going to push them, we're going to challenge them. So we have those conversations as teams. And we have that focus on differentiation and how we meet individual student needs. We're proud of many things at Neal. Our culture and climate is really impressive to me, that we're so holistic in our approach with student needs. We know that students aren't going to be learning if they're hungry, if they're exhausted, if they're homeless. We know that we need to be addressing all of the student needs. And the article that I linked in there was about our breakfast program. We have a collaboration with Second Harvest Heartland, where we have a 2-year grant that we're sustaining after we lose that funding, to provide a monthly food shelf for Neal families. So we have our food distribution every third Tuesday of the month. You're welcome to come along. It's 3:30 to 6, and we have fresh produce and bread, and it's wonderful to see the families come in and participate in that. I'm also really proud of how we use our resources, and by that I really mean our time and our people, and how people collaborate together to make sure that we're making the best use of our time. And we got to welcome some really adorable pre-K students this year. They're a lot of fun. And you can see in the pictures the 5th graders helping teach stars to the rest of our building at our assembly at the beginning of the year. We have a lot to celebrate. I could probably talk for an hour about the wonderful things that are happening at Neal. We opened in 1968, so we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. We were in the Fire Muster Parade, not last year, but the year before. We had a big cake and Neal waving at people along the parade route. It was a lot of fun, and we celebrated with T-shirts for everyone. And then going counterclockwise, we have a picture of one of our parent involvement events, Breakfast with a Book. We really love to bring families into the building to be able to share in the learning with their students. We have our very own hashtag. We have a community garden that we're really proud of. We got $5,000 in grant funds for our community garden, which has been thriving this year. We're also moving into Move Mindfully, which I know some of the other buildings, I think Mr. Bonneville talked about that when he presented last time as well. We're implementing on a little smaller scale, but we are implementing that in our morning meetings and really providing teachers with those tools to, again, have that holistic approach and really build a family in the classroom. And then the other 2 pictures represent our food distribution, and not just the food distribution itself, but that top picture is from one of our staff trainings where we partnered with Second Harvest Heartland to do a training on food insecurity and what does it feel like to not be able to feed your family if you're making minimum wage, and what do you do and how do you navigate the system. And it really helped us to go outside of ourselves and challenge our assumptions about families and know that our experiences are different from some of our families' experience, our students' experiences, and really build that empathy. And our staff is really on board with that and really wanting to be their best selves so that they can bring children to be their best selves. So, and there's my contact information.
Well, thanks for that presentation. Any board member comments or questions?
I don't want to go first. You want to say something? Okay.
Director Vandenboom.
First of all, thank you so much, and you and all of your peers, really, for the hard work you do. This is fabulous. I mean, And when I start to see those goals and, and the focus and so forth that you're doing, it's just fantastic. One of the things I always, there's a couple things that I always think about, especially at the K-5, is the parent involvement. And, because I still remember, even though my kids are pretty old now, I still very much remember, how can I help? So as a parent, are there things that I can be doing at home to assist? And all of the focus that you guys do is so fantastic in the schools. So when a parent comes and says, how can I supplement, complement, improve on, or just help you along with, because I want my child to, read better, do math better.
Sure.
What are some of the things that you do in that regard to kind of help that along? Because I think that's such, and I also bring it up because I know that in particular, families with students of color have a lot of anxiety around even asking. And so a lot of times they're maybe a little bit hesitant to even ask about how I can help or what I can do. And so are we kind of proactive is sort of the part two of the question. Are we a little bit proactive in terms of trying to get them involved?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think about the things that we do school-wide, the ways that we communicate with families, the way that we share what we're doing in the classroom academically through our websites and through Seesaw. I don't know if you're familiar with Seesaw, how we show the projects that we're working on and students can share directly with families. I think about those practices, like we have a learning fair and we have our stream fair and we bring families in, and how wonderful it is to see all the families learning together and really better understanding what their student is doing during the day. And then what I think is perhaps even more powerful, there's one-on-one conversations that we have that, like that Shannon was talking about, where we sit down with the family and say, what are your expectations of us? What do you need from us? Right. What do you want to know? I actually had a parent tour with a prospective kindergarten parent a couple years ago, and I said, what questions do you have? And she said, I don't know. What questions should I have? and that really stuck with me, that I can't make an assumption that people know what to ask. And so we do try to front load that and provide information for families and really make sure that our expectations are on the same page and say, this is what we would like from you. What do you need from us? And how can we help? And we make sure that families have access to materials. We find that not all of our students have books at home. Yep. So we do spend a lot of our parent involvement money on things that can go into the home so that they have dice so they can play a math game. They have books that they can read. We also individualize that. If we find out that certain families need something, then, they don't have pencils at home. Yeah. We can help out with that.
Well,
so that's kind of a roundabout way of answering your question.
No, thank you very much. I mean, I love some of the aggressive goals, because I saw some numbers and I was like, hey, is that achievable, and because but you know what, I really commend you for doing that, because I think all too often we set safe goals. And I love the fact that you're setting some difficult to reach goals, because even if you don't get there, I'm guessing that you might get further than you would with the safe goals.
Yeah, there's a Vince Lombardi quote about, you strive for perfection. Yep. It's not attainable, but at least you'll get to excellence, something like that. Yep. Like you might not get to perfection, but you'll get to excellence. And I really encourage my teachers when we're setting student learning goals, for example, why not 100%? Yeah. Why do we have an acceptable level of failure? Yeah. So I want to push them to that.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Luth?
So Dr. Vaught, how long have you been doing this now? 'Cause
it's been a few months. This is my 9th school year at Neal Elementary.
Because I know it's been a number of years.
Yes,
and,
it has.
I thank you for coming. I'm not sure that you or any of your peers could have come to the board not that many years ago and made this kind of a presentation. I think the changes, the 191 vision and all the things that go along with that have provided a foundation, a set of tools, higher level of expectations. And I want to commend you personally tonight, because I've seen you grow.
Thank you.
It's been really, you've been someone I can remember. I was just trying to remember, God, it's got to be like 9, 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been a dozen, but, and your personal growth is indicative of
Thank you.
a whole lot of people.
Thank you.
Particularly in your school, your staff, whether, all the different groups and so on that make that school run. And so I personally want to thank you for that, because it's been fun to watch that. I've had the opportunity to have been in your school a few times over the years, not often, but often enough to see progress, to see change, very positive change.
Thank you.
And I want to piggyback a little bit on Director Vandenboom's, that one of the things that would have happened not too many years ago is you would have come with safe goals. And that's not a knock against you. It was the culture at the time. Don't stretch too far, because you don't want to fail. I mean, make a mistake or something, God forbid, and so on. And I think there's a different environment out there for you now, and for everybody in the teaching ranks and the support staff ranks and so on. But anyhow, I like what I see. This is the second one of these we've had, and I love these presentations. I love the opportunity to have a focus on one of our schools and give you a chance to sort of, pat yourself on the back, because you're doing great work.
So much more. I timed myself and I thought, oh, 10 minutes.
How do I not take the whole night, right?
Yeah. But I to your point about the growth, I really have to put a lot of that credit towards the cultural proficiency work that one of the things that's really stuck with me is that when I hear something that's extremely powerful, I put it on my wall, and I have a wall full of things that have challenged my thinking. And one of them is, what are you afraid of? And there's no reason to be afraid of challenging and asking questions and pushing people and pushing myself. So
you don't ask anything more of yourself than you ask of all of your staff. I know that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Ruth. Director Alt?
Thank you. My comment is more about appreciating, going back to the slide on the data and how you're looking at the data differently, and appreciating how conversations have really shifted. That, in years past, I would hear from families, okay, so there are a certain group of kids that are getting supports and getting help. What about my kid who's, already doing fine? What are you doing to challenge them? Right. And seeing in the data concretely shows that you're looking at proficient, no growth, proficient, high growth, for all of the different permutations. Yeah. And that really allows us as a system to make sure that we are addressing each student's needs regardless of where they fall on the learning curve, and setting those high expectations and not being afraid to set the high expectations, because the kids can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Alt. Director Courier.
More history, of course. When I was a practicing administrator, it was pre-brain power in a backpack. And I go back to Maslow's hierarchy. And, basic need, food. And in your pictures, and I went to your school when you first got that grant.
Yeah.
Food is pretty basic. And I remember those mornings where I used to supervise breakfast before brain power in a backpack, and the kids would come in from the weekend, and man, it was the easiest thing to supervise because they were so hungry. Yeah. They'd eat. They didn't horse around. They ate. So I've been proud of your school in its effort to feed your kids. Yeah. And your effort in going for grants, and the basic need of a kid, first of all, to have their tummies filled, and our effort in this district. So first of all, it was, in your school to get that grant, but our food service people, I have to shout out to them. When in the summer, they fed our kids in the summer, that we've tried to take care of that basic need.
Yeah.
But congratulations to your school
Thank you.
in the progress, and of course, it helps them to learn.
Yeah.
So,
And I would be remiss if I didn't say, you know, yes, we need the food and those basic needs met. We also need children to know that they're cared for and we care about them and have those high expectations too. And I also want to mention, put in a plug for I'm not sure if you're familiar with the CACFP grant, but it's another extension of the breakfast funding and the lunch funding. It's a late afternoon meal that we're starting up in November at some of our schools. There's 8 elementary schools that qualify, and I think the middle schools qualify. We're calling it Super Snack. It's much like a dinner that if you attend PALS or you attend Project Kids, you're going to get that after school meal. It's not just a thing of Scooby snacks. It's an actual meal. So we're implementing that starting in November.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have a comment and then actually a question. So I want to reiterate, you know, it is so important that when Dr. Courier and I discussed this with Cindy about bringing the different schools in front of us, you know, this isn't about inspection. We just don't get out into all the schools, and we want to understand the community, the culture, what you're doing, because each school is unique, even though we're one district. And so it's so exciting for us to see all this, you know, so pass it on to your peers. I know for a 10-minute presentation, that might have been my rule I set, but that's okay. I know you spend hours preparing. I don't want people to get nervous about it. It's a wonderful thing for us to learn, and you know, the preparation is important. A few things from my perspective on slide 6, I just have to understand the data a little better, and so hopefully they're pretty simple questions. The first one is for the pink, the no 2016, 2017 proficiency. Would I imply that to mean that those 17 students weren't there the year prior, so we don't have
Correct.
data? Okay,
We don't have
good.
data.
Yep. In the lower right chart, 2 questions. What I guess I'm not understanding what the growth column means.
Sure. Okay, so that would be the percentage of students. I'm sorry, let me look at it real quick. Okay, that is the percentage of students that met their year growth goal. They
Okay.
met or exceeded it.
Okay.
So, yeah, on MAP reading for that year. So, for example, if I look at the all students, 50% of the students met proficiency, 56, almost 57% met their year's growth.
Okay.
So, one of the conversations we have a lot about growth is, so it's September, what if all of your students made a year's growth? What's your data going to look like next September? It'll look exactly the same. We'll still have the same gaps. We'll still have the same students
Right.
proficient and struggling. So we want to focus on that accelerated growth for those who need to bridge that. Bridge the gap between them and the proficiency.
Okay, that makes sense. Good.
Yeah.
And then this might be just a number thing.
Sure.
So under that, all students, you know, under MAP, 50% met proficiency. So 100% would imply 62, but above it's 69. So I'm not seeing. Are we missing 7 students somehow?
No, okay, so we might have differing numbers because when we take the MCA test in the spring, we test all the students. If you look at proficiency, you might be looking at fall to spring. So do we have fall and spring? So it might be slightly different.
Thank you for that clarification.
Can I just?
Oh, sure.
I just want to add on because part of what we really love about this is, you know, it's this complicated stuff. Yeah. It is and it isn't. I mean, but I don't think the general public really gets exposed to how challenging it is for our staff and administration to deal with all of those different levels of needs and so forth, as well as basic needs that we talked about and so forth. But not only does it help us to just kind of see what's going on in your school, but it clearly, in my view, helps sort of our public who gets a chance to see this understand that this isn't simple stuff and that there's a lot of work behind the scenes to get proficiency to move a point or two. And, you know, again, I commend you and your peers because, and just knowing the numbers. I mean, this is one chart of, I know, hundreds
Just one
that
grade
you
level.
guys deal with. And,
Yeah.
the point you made earlier about we wanted our kids to know that we care. Dee Dee and I often get into the data discussion. You're so data driven, but fundamentally, it's if those kids feel like somebody cares about them, they're engaged and they're going to learn. And so there's a lot of things that are not hard numbers that are very meaningful, and the fact that you brought that up to me was very, very meaningful as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent?
I'm glad that, Dr. Vaught, you brought up CPSS in the comments a little bit ago, because I just want to tie this to your question from our CPSS presentation in terms of is this worth staying with, and is it going to have an impact on achievement? So much of what you mentioned in your presentation is CPSS. And I just want to remind people that CPSS is not just about race, which is often an assumption when you hear of a program that has culture in the title. Culturally proficient school systems is about understanding any factor that might be different in one's culture than another. So a man's versus a woman's, a younger person's versus an older person's. My daughter now lives in Houston, Texas, and she will tell you that even though we grew up in the same household with many of the same beliefs and values, hers, she says y'all to start with, but so it's about anything that's different. It can be about food habits. It can be, it's everything. And so as I was listening to your presentation and thinking about your question on the last one, I thought that's CPSS, that's CPSS. The training that you described about food insecurity, that's CPSS. It's about understanding what someone else is coming to the table, not to make a pun, but what someone else is coming to the table with that might be a different experience than yours, might be a different belief and value. And so for our teachers who may not be experiencing food insecurity, to have that training, to understand that, to be providing that food shelf, to be providing the super snack, that is all the result of or very much tied to our CPSS work. And what we're seeing in the numbers at Neil and what we're seeing in the experience at Neil, the examples you gave about parents and interacting with our parents, that's all CPSS. So it's sort of the perfect answer to the question that you asked a little while ago about the impact it can have.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to the reports section of our meeting. We'll start with Superintendent Amoroso.
Thank you, Chair Schmid. I have a few good news items to report on today. The first one is we received our report last week from the University of Minnesota about Burnsville High School students' participation in their College in the Schools program. And for those of you who may not know, College in the Schools, or CIS, as we often refer to it, is a program that allows high school juniors and seniors to take college-level classes without leaving their school. Students get the benefit of experiencing the pace and rigor of a University of Minnesota class and can earn college credits that may save them thousands of dollars in tuition. And I do just want to clarify that we have many classes at Burnsville High School that offer college credit. This particular report is only referencing those courses that are affiliated with the University of Minnesota. We have a number of other courses that are affiliated with other MnSCU, Minnesota colleges and universities. But College in the Schools is specifically University of Minnesota. So during last school year, 2017-18 school year, our students at Burnsville High School earned 2,599 college credits through their CIS classes. These are not the students that are going for PSEO onto the campus and taking classes. These are students who earned those credits in class at Burnsville High School being taught by one of our Burnsville High School teachers. The 2,599 college credits they earned is worth almost $1.3 million in tuition that our students have achieved at no cost to those families or students. With those totals, last year, Burnsville High School ranked second in the entire state in terms of the credits earned through CIS. Congratulations to these future-ready students, as well as to the BHS teachers and the administrators who are supporting this program and providing an amazing opportunity for our Burnsville students. Next, I want to recognize the talented and dedicated staff in our finance and accounting departments. For the 30th consecutive year, we have received the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award from the Association of School Business Officials International. This award is considered to be the gold standard and the highest recognition for a school district financial operation. It speaks to their professionalism and our commitment to financial integrity, transparency, and accountability. Congratulations to everyone in the department, including Executive Director Lisa Ryder, who's with us tonight, and to our Accounting Director, Robin Pickle, and her department. My next item is I want to recognize and thank the staff and students, and Chair Schmid sort of previewed this during our Schmitty and Sons presentation, but I want to recognize and thank the staff and students at Eagle Ridge Middle School and Hidden Valley Elementary, as well as our partners in the Savage Fire and Police Departments and our transportation company, Schmitty and Sons. Last week, when construction crews pierced a gas line near those two schools, both schools had to be evacuated. They happened to be each other's evacuation sites also. So for a little more than an hour, staff members and students were outside finding ways to be engaged and stay warm. Schmitty and Sons sent 13 buses immediately to shelter students who needed it. Meanwhile, firefighters and utility crews checked the schools to make sure they were safe for our students to return. At the end of the day, because one driveway was blocked by a fire truck, police officers and staff were on hand to help direct traffic so parents could pick up their students safely. When we hear that a school is being evacuated, many will imagine worst-case scenarios. Fortunately, because of the calm, prepared response of everyone involved, this event was an inconvenience and nothing more. So again, thank you to everyone involved. Last, as you know, it was homecoming at Burnsville High School last week. And I will mention we had an overwhelming victory football Friday night. As part of the week's celebrations, we unveiled a new display featuring memorabilia from some of the school's founding students and first years. These include a letter jacket, photos, 2 women's and 2 men's class rings, event programs, a picture of the first homecoming queen and king, news clippings, and much more. It really is a beautiful way to celebrate some of Burnsville High School's history. We created a short video so that we can share this display with a wider audience, and we're going to play that for you right now.
We had a 50-year reunion or something, and all them coaches were there, and I brought the jacket with, and I had, Hanson and Melcher and Combo CE, and I got 8 or 10 names on there.
In 1956, when the school opened, in the very first class, there were 3 students, and in our class, which was more of an official one, I guess you'd say, there were 14. So we were the students who chose the school colors, who wrote the school song, had the first yearbook, class rings, and all that. So some of us who remained around in the district had kept memorabilia, and I had like the first playbook from the first play that we had and brochures about the school before it started.
The intent was that this space was always going to be a space to try to showcase some of our history and try to showcase for our students, that they not only have the now, but, our high school has, a rich many years of heritage.
So that will now be a permanent display at the high school right inside the lobby. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I encourage you to stop by and take a look the next time you're over that way. It was a pleasure to be there for the unveiling and meet some of those founding students. By coincidence, Janet Williams was holding the 60th class reunion at her house that day, and that had been scheduled independently from our scheduling of the unveiling, and so she was able to bring several of those students of the graduating class of 14 students with her that day to the unveiling. And so thank you again to everyone who helped make that possible. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So before we move to board member reports, a few of us board members also attended. They seem to clip out the video where the females and the male students of the founding class might have disputed who chose the school colors. Mayor Williams did bring some of her classmates with from that reunion, and there was a little discussion of
there was the boys
who
and the
made some of
girls
the
who picked it.
decisions.
Yeah.
So that was quite entertaining.
That was
but
fun.
with that, we will move to board member reports. Director Alt.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt. Last Thursday, I had the pleasure of attending a celebration of healthy communities hosted by Community Education, Know Your Neighbor, and the YMCA. I was also joined by Director Courier. This event brought together old friends and new from across our community. It was well attended, and participants included parents of 191 students, a healthy representation of our senior citizen community, and 191 students of all ages. We enjoyed a free dinner together and were encouraged to change tables throughout the meal so that we had the opportunity to get to know as many participants as possible. And they did this with small plates. So you could only get so much food on a small plate, and then you'd have to get up if you wanted more, and then that was when you changed tables. So that was fun. It was a really fun and fluid event with each of us sharing a little bit about ourselves and learning from others. I would like to thank each of our 3 hosts for their partnership in hosting this successful event. It is my understanding that we can expect more of these events to show up on our calendar, and I strongly encourage fellow board members and community to join in. Earlier this week, I attended Savage's annual State of the City address along with Director Courier, Superintendent Amoroso, members of leadership, and building principals. Presented by Mayor Williams and City Administrator Larson, we learned that the City of Savage will continue to focus its energies on road improvement, building out sidewalks and bike paths, and lending a hand in development. While the city itself is pretty well built out, the mayor and city administrator admit there is no shortage of work to be done. As always, Mayor Williams shared her own insights and stories, which help to provide perspective on conversations, decisions, and development in the city. This ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member reports? Director Luth.
Just a brief one, just to kind of make more for my fellow board to be aware. I know some of you know. You may be thinking that I'm, my countdown is about my last, weeks on the board, but there's a couple other countdowns in my life that are occurring in that my daughter and my son, both graduates of and lifelong learners in this district, are getting married. The first one is 4 weeks from Saturday, and the second one is 6 weeks from Sunday. They are 6 years apart. They're not following the plan that their parents have put together for them, but nonetheless, if I do seem a bit distracted over the next few weeks, while at the same time looking like giddy, at the same time, it's not because of my waning days on the board, but it's because I'm a very proud father of 2 kids as the growing drama of 2 weddings quickly approach in my family. So that's my report.
Thank you, Director Luth. Any other board member reports? All right. We will move on to the business part of our meeting. First on the agenda is the consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold discussion on these items. In the event a board member wishes to discuss an item, that item will be removed for separate consideration. Do any board members want to remove an item tonight? All right, seeing none, with that, I'll take a motion for approval of the consent agenda. So moved by Director Miller, second by Director Ruth. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. We will now move right into the new business part of our meeting. First up, we will approve a memorandum of agreement with Burnsville Egan Savage School District 191 in the city of Burnsville. Presenting will be Lisa Ryder, our Executive Director of Business Services, and the recipient of the 30th Annual Excellence Award.
Thank you. So tonight what we have before us is an agreement, memorandum of agreement with the City of Burnsville, and it's all related to a program tied into our AP Environmental Science courses. And it's also including our BHS Green Team Youth Service through Community Education. So it's a nice connection. Just to keep in mind that, we've partnered with the city for a number of things. Most recently, you might have heard about the buckthorn eating goats and our Burnsville Family Fest coming up this weekend. So I just want to make sure we put that out there for people so that they can also participate in those events. This particular agreement is intended to commence September 1 of this year and run through December 31st of 19. And the students who are enrolled in the Advanced Placement Environmental Science and the members of the high school green team will participate in a water resource education activities. So some of the dollars will be used for purchasing of water testing equipment, and then that equipment will be retained by us, and the students will use that equipment to test the water and to learn how that works and how that what that means when they see the test results and how they can analyze and study that. So we're looking forward to the opportunity for the students to participate in something like this. The city how this came about is they had received a federal grant, and they had some funds that they could make use of in a way that was new and different from what they've had before. So they reached out to us to see if this was a program that we would like to start partnering. Their hope and their goal is to continue this, and that this is not just a one and done thing. That's what I have for you tonight.
All right, thank you. I will get the motion. I had the actual agreement up. All right, so the recommendation is that the Board of Education approves a memorandum of agreement with the City of Burnsville to provide time and resources for environmental education pilot program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Director Alt.
Seconded.
Second by Director Vandenboom. Any questions or comments? I actually have one, Lisa. So in the agreement, that's why I added up. It seemed odd to me that we're ending mid-year, right, mid-school year, December of 2019. And I'll follow up with another question related to that. So the second part of that question is, in the agreement it states that whatever the city buys, as long as we use it, we can maintain it, keep it. But does that go away with the agreement? So let's say the agreement ends and it's not renewed, and we have whatever this equipment is that we're using for these science classes. Do we have to return it then, December of 2019?
We will not have to return the equipment at that point in time. As long as we're using it, it can continue to be ours. If they had a need for it and we were not using it, then we would look to give that back to them, but that I don't anticipate being the case. As far as why December, they are calendar basis. We're fiscal year.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, I didn't get a sense for the dollars involved. Is there any kind of sense for that? I mean, I didn't, I read through it, but I didn't really see. So is there like roughly how much the city is talking about versus us?
This is the partnership is probably more meaningful than sometimes the dollars may be.
Yep.
But we are looking at a $5,000 for the current year.
Okay.
And it could be up to $10,000.
Up to 10,000? Okay. That helps me. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
That's great.
All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, make sure we thank Burnsville for reaching out to us, too. This is a great opportunity.
All right. Last on our agenda, I will, Superintendent Amoroso will present a letter to the board.
Thank you. Chair Schmidt and members of the Board of Education, this letter is to inform you of my decision to retire at the end of this school year, June 30th, 2019. The timing of this decision has been in my family's plans for several years now. In 2017, when Superintendent Gothard left the district, I felt strongly about the benefits of stable leadership and maintaining the momentum in Vision 191. I knew we had started meaningful change that would take several years to implement and deliver results. With that in mind, I felt it was perfect timing when the board offered me a 2-year interim contract. I was happy to have the opportunity to continue the work we were doing and establish Vision 191 as the culture of this community. In my time here, our staff and community members have taken on the challenges of a bold vision, and we've come out stronger and better together. I feel incredibly blessed to be part of that work and to be a part of the 191 community. Even though I'm making the announcement now, I want to be clear that I am not retiring today. I am committed to the work of District 191 and leading that work throughout my tenure. It's not in my nature to step back from what needs to be done. Our community, staff, and most importantly, our students deserve my full attention, and I promise that they will have it. Thank you for the trust you've placed in me and for the opportunity to serve the 191 community.
Thank you, Cindy. So there isn't an action we need to take, but any questions or comments?
So you don't need to accept my
Oh, we do need to. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Well, we almost got away with it. All right. I will read the recommendation. The motion is that the Board of Education accepts the resignation retirement letter from Superintendent Cindy Amoroso effective June 30th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Director Miller, second by Director Luth. Any questions or comments?
So what happens if we reject it?
Yeah.
She keeps working. Certainly I want to make a short statement. It was a little over a year ago, when we were kind of put in that position, to make a decision, and we hired you as our interim superintendent, and with the full intention that you'd fill out the contract, hence why it was 2 years, of the, when Joe left. And, we were grateful, I was, and I know the board was, that you took that role on, to continue the Vision 191 that, we put in place. We didn't want to just stop in our tracks. Your knowledge and commitment to it and to our students of 191 has helped keep us on track, at this crucial time, in this project. I also appreciate your clear intent to continue the work throughout the year. Trust me, with 7 board members, I don't think you're going to have much of a choice, but that's good. That's your intent as well. Everyone who cares about this district knows that we don't have, the time to coast towards anyone's finish lines, whether it's, the superintendent or an educator. We all have work to do. We expect you to lead that work, and we know you will lead that work, and we have every confidence in that. Thank you for your service, and thank you for giving us ample notice, so that we can, proceed accordingly. With that, we have the motion on the table. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And your retirement is set in stone.
Chair Schmidt,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion before we adjourn. I move that the Board of Education directs Superintendent Cindy Amoroso to work with the appropriate staff to develop a plan and timeline for a superintendent search by our October 25th, 2018 meeting, so there is a superintendent in place by July 1st, 2019.
Okay,
Second.
with the motion on the table, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Alt. Any discussion or comments? Director Luth.
I'll turn to superintendent. Is that adequate time? You've put a pretty tight starting gate.
To develop a plan.
Right, just to clarify, it would be basically working with HR to just put in place what that timeline would look like in terms of putting out an RFP, having a search firm in place,
Yep, okay.
that kind of,
And
that's,
that you feel
right.
comfortable and?
Yes.
Okay. Good enough for me.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I would expect, we did this, 6 years ago, that we,
I've done it too many times.
you've done it more, yes, the last time we did it.
I really appreciate the advance notice, let me tell you.
Right, that we put together criteria from a board perspective of what we'd want, not only in the search firm, but what that search firm would do, whether it's focus groups, things like that, and that all come together. And
Huge undertaking for a board.
yes,
in the selection
absolutely.
of superintendent. This is-
And we know we'll have some new board members, so that, take that into account.
Yes, I'd like to speak to that just for the public's perspective. It will be critical that the new board members, how many there are, regardless, will be involved in this process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there won't be any decision. The only
Just wanna be
possible
very clear about
decision
that,
is
so.
on a search firm, prior to January, so, yeah. Focus groups won't kick off till, after January. Yeah, that's right. All right, any other discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read by Director Courier, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. All right, with that, we will be adjourning to a workshop to discuss the North Star rating system. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you.